My parents tried to kick me out at 16 over a lie. Years later, they forgave my sister when she turned out to be the affair child, and blamed me for speaking the truth. I'm just writing this all down because I seriously need to get it out of my head. Honestly, I'm not even sure what I'm hoping to get by throwing this up on Reddit. Maybe I just want it to exist somewhere other than in my brain. So, I'm 28 now, but everything started when I was 16. It mainly involves my mom, dad, and my little sister, Chloe. Chloe's 5 years younger than me, so she was only 11 when everything kicked off, and she's 23 now. And then there's this guy, let's call him Richard, my mom's ex from before she met my dad, or so I thought. Growing up for the first 16 years seemed pretty normal from where I stood. We lived in a suburban house. My dad had a tough job, worked long hours, but he was a chill guy when he was around. Mom was mostly a stay-at-home mom, but she took on some part-time work later. She was a bit of a wild card, sometimes super involved, other times kind of distant. Chloe, being the youngest, got a lot more affection or maybe just more tolerance than I did. I was the quiet, independent one. My parents had their arguments, enough to make the air feel tense, but nothing that screamed major issues. Then the year I turned 16, this Richard guy got in touch with my mom. I didn't know at first, but I could tell something was up because my mom was getting more stressed over a few weeks. She was all secretive with her phone calls, taking them in her room with the door shut or outside in the garden. My dad seemed on edge too. Tension was high, with more whispered conversations going on between them after Chloe and I had gone to bed. One evening, my parents asked me to sit down. My mom looked pale, and my dad looked angry and awkward. They told me Richard, this guy my mom dated before she married my dad, had popped back up, claiming they had an affair around when I was conceived. He suggested I might be his biological son. I just sat there, stunned. It was like something out of a soap opera. My mom denied it all, saying Richard was lying because he was still bitter about their breakup and trying to stir up trouble. My dad quietly listened but didn't seem fully convinced, his eyes kept darting from her to me. The next few days at home were rough. My mom was crying a lot and my dad was withdrawn. When he did talk, it was in a clipped tone. Richard kept pushing it, providing dates and details of supposed meetups with my mom before I was born. The pressure was on. My mom kept saying he was a manipulative liar, and my dad proposed a paternity test to put the whole thing to rest. He said it would clear everything up and protect us from Richard's accusations. My mom agreed, saying it would prove her innocence. I felt like I didn't have a choice, being 16 and all. So, I agreed to do it. The wait for the test and the results felt like forever. I tried to keep it together, going to school, doing homework, but home felt like a ticking time bomb. My parents were barely talking, and when they spoke to me, it felt forced, like they were seeing a question mark whenever they looked at me. Chloe was too young to get the details, but she knew something was wrong. The day the results were due, my dad picked them up, and we sat around the kitchen table. He opened the envelope, read the paper, and said, with no expression, that the test confirmed he was my biological dad. It was a weird mix of emotions. My mom burst into tears, insisting she knew it all along and that Richard was a liar. I felt a massive wave of relief wash over me, like everything was finally okay. But it wasn't. A day or two later, after my mom's initial celebrations of being right, my parents sat me down again. This talk was quieter, almost colder. My dad did most of the talking. He said even though the test was clear, it bothered him how much Richard knew about my mom's past and he was sure my mom had been in contact with Richard during that time, even if she insisted it was innocent. My mom just stared at her hands. Then my dad said something I'll never forget. They'd been talking and were thinking about asking me to move out for a bit. Even with the paternity test, Richard's claims and his talk of continued contact with my mom had cast a shadow over everything. So, there was this whole thing with my mom that she wasn't really coming clean about, and it seemed like it wasn't directly about whether I was my dad's kid, but it still messed things up. My dad kept saying just in case, and I couldn't help but think just in case of what? Like, maybe he was worried I was a walking reminder of a tough time, or maybe he thought having me around would keep things tense, or maybe, just maybe, even with the DNA test proving I was his son, some part of them was still grossed out or doubted it all. My mom didn't argue with him. She just sat there, not meeting my eyes, which was wild because even after the DNA test cleared things up, even after weeks of me feeling like I had this black cloud over me because of her past, they were still considering kicking me out. Yeah, they were actually talking about kicking me out, their 16-year-old kid, because of some unproven stuff an ex-boyfriend of my mom said, and because she wasn't totally open about what went down with him. In the end, they didn't make me leave, maybe because they saw the shock on my face or realized how extreme that would be. But life at home was never the same. There was this flimsy peace that settled over the place. My mom acted like we should just forget the whole thing, like since she was right about the DNA, everything was cool now. My dad kept his distance for a long time. He never said sorry for suggesting I should be out of the picture, and my mom never apologized for the mess her old actions caused. It really changed how I saw both of them. I didn't feel safe with them anymore. I started seeing my mom as someone who could shake things up for us and then not take full responsibility, and my dad as someone who, when things got tough, would rather get rid of me than deal with his own worries, even when the facts were right there. So, I started keeping to myself at home, throwing myself into school, and focusing on my grades. I was all about carving out a future for myself, one that didn't rely on them. I hung out with friends more or just stayed in my room. We never talked about Richard, the affair rumors, the DNA test, or the conversation about me leaving again. It became this huge, unspoken thing in the middle of our family life. I think my sister, Chloe, didn't really know the full story of what I went through, though she knew there was a big argument involving some guy from Mom's past. Time went by, and I finished high school with good grades and went off to a university in another city, which was such a relief. Being physically far away helped me put some emotional distance between us too. I studied hard, got my degree, landed a decent job, and built my own life and support system. I became independent. During those years, I kept in touch with my parents, but it was all surface level stuff. We'd call every couple of weeks, and I'd go home for major holidays. But that old tension? It was still there for me, under the surface. It seemed like they'd moved on or buried it well. Chloe grew up too, went to college herself, and kept a closer bond with them, which made sense. She wasn't dragged into the family drama like I was. I never spelled out what happened to her, it wasn't her cross to bear. I was polite and did what a son should do, but I kept a big part of myself guarded from them. There was no real warmth, no deep connection, just a functional relationship. Then, about 6 months back, everything got turned on its head again. My dad, just by chance, stumbled across some old emails on a rarely used account of my mom's. He wasn't hunting for dirt or anything, just clearing out old stuff on a family computer. But those emails? They weren't from Richard. They were from some guy I'd never heard of, and they laid out an affair my mom had, one that started after I was born but around when Chloe came into the picture. The messages were crystal clear. My dad confronted my mom, and this time, she couldn't deny it. In a rare, tough phone call, my dad filled me in that my mom admitted to everything, the affair, knowing Chloe wasn't his biological kid, all of it. She'd kept this massive secret for over 20 years, let my dad raise Chloe, love her, take care of her, all while knowing this truth. She'd watched me get dragged into the paternity scare at 16, knowing she had this even bigger secret about Chloe. The fallout was immediate and messy. My dad was crushed, naturally, but the way he and my mom handled things with Chloe set off everything with me again. Chloe, now 23, found out the truth. Of course, she was shocked, confused, and super upset. It messed with her whole sense of self. But my parents? They came together for her, offering endless comfort and support. My dad, the one who'd been cheated, reassured Chloe that nothing had changed, that he was still her dad in every sense that mattered. My mom was there, too. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more crazy real-life stories happening around you. When I heard about how everyone rallied around Chloe, offering nothing but support and apologies, I was floored. It's not that Chloe didn't deserve their backing, she totally did, she was caught in a mess not of her own making. But the hypocrisy stung. It took me right back to when I was 16, feeling like a ticking time bomb, a source of shame, and the subject of a just-in-case conversation about being kicked out, even after a DNA test confirmed my dad was actually my dad. Chloe's situation was the embodiment of the fears they supposedly had about me. Yet, it was my mom who had been deceiving everyone for ages. I gave my parents a call and had a heart-to-heart. I didn't lose my cool, I calmly laid out the huge difference in their reactions. I reminded them of the crap I went through at 16 and questioned how they could shower Chloe with comfort and unwavering support, something she rightly deserved, when I'd faced suspicion and threats of being abandoned over nothing, thanks to my mom's mess up with Richard. I asked if they got how this made me feel, seeing such a glaring double standard. I wasn't asking for Chloe to be treated badly, just for them to acknowledge what I had endured, maybe even apologize now that they had a clear comparison. Their response? A united front of deflection. My mom accused me of being selfish, saying I was making Chloe's crisis about me. My dad called me heartless, saying it was wrong to bring up old stuff when Chloe was suffering. He said my situation was totally different since Richard was an outside accuser, while Chloe's was a family matter they were handling with compassion. The fact that my mom was central to both situations seemed to slip their minds, and they flat out refused to acknowledge any hypocrisy or past wrongs toward me. That was it for me. Their refusal to see or admit the glaring imbalance in their behavior, and their readiness to attack me for simply asking for fair treatment, snapped the last thread of obligation I felt toward them. I told them that if they couldn't understand my perspective, couldn't see the blatant hypocrisy, and were going to call me heartless for wanting my trauma acknowledged, I had nothing more to say. I ended the call, blocked their numbers and social media. A few weeks later, they started posting vague, self-pitying statuses online, talking about ungrateful children and the pain of being cut off for no good reason. It was clear they meant me. Mutual friends started asking me subtle questions. I had no intention of letting them control the story and paint me as the villain, so I made a detailed post on my social media. I didn't get aggressive, just laid out the facts. I described what happened when I was 16, the paternity test, their threat to kick me out. Then, the recent revelation about Chloe, my mom's long deception, and how differently they treated me versus Chloe. I stated that their online posts misrepresented why I cut ties and that I did it for my own well-being, wishing them the best in handling their family drama without me. The response was big. Many who knew us were shocked. Some who had seen my parents' vague posts immediately got the full picture I provided. From what I heard, not engaging directly, my parents were deeply embarrassed. They took down their posts quickly, and my mom even deactivated her account for a bit. So, that's where things stand. I cut them off. They tried to sway public opinion, and I countered with the truth, which embarrassed them publicly. I don't regret sharing the truth, especially since they took it online first. There's no going back now. They haven't reached out since my post, and I haven't either. My question is, did I go too far by airing all the details publicly? They started the online drama, but I took it further with specifics. Was it justified given the past and their actions, or did I become part of the problem by going public? I'm not looking for reconciliation, those bridges are definitely burnt, and honestly, I was the one who lit the match. After they gave me the kindling, I've really been trying to wrap my head around whether my reaction to their big reveal was a fair response to everything they've put me through over the years. It's been about 3 weeks since I first posted about this. First off, huge thanks to everyone who read my story and shared their thoughts. I got tons of comments and private messages, and even though I didn't reply to many, still processing, I did read them all. Weirdly helpful to see it all laid out and know others could spot the same behavior pattern I was talking about. A lot of folks wanted more details, so here goes. Chloe's age and reaction. She was 23 when she found out the truth about her dad. As you can imagine, she was crushed. I haven't talked to her since I stepped away from my parents, but I hear she's having a tough time, even though my dad is supporting her, and my mom is trying to patch things up. I'm not sure if she's connected with her real dad yet. My issue was never with Chloe or the support she got, it was more about how differently my parents treated us, despite similar situations from a parental crisis viewpoint. They wouldn't admit this double standard. When I talked about equal treatment to my parents, I didn't mean treating Chloe with suspicion or threats. That would be cruel since she, like me, was an innocent bystander in her own paternity drama. What I wanted was for them to own up to how unfairly they treated me at 16. I wanted them to acknowledge the hypocrisy, how they doubted me, threatened to kick me out even after a DNA test, and never apologized for the distress caused by my mom's thing with Richard. This was especially hard to swallow when compared to their unconditional support for Chloe, whose situation stemmed from much bigger lies by my mom. An apology for how they treated me back then, especially seeing how they handled Chloe's situation now, would have been nice. Instead, they called me heartless. As for their online digs, my parents didn't name me directly, but they sure made it clear. My mom posted stuff like, "It's a cruel world when your own kid turns their back on you in your darkest hour," and my dad posted about young people lacking loyalty or how some folks forget who raised them when family gets tough. Their friends chimed in with sympathy, clearly not knowing the real story. They painted me as the ungrateful son who bailed during a crisis I didn't start. In my post, I stuck to the facts, explaining the Richard thing at 16, the DNA test, and the talks about possibly having to leave home. I then fast-forwarded to now, revealing that my mom knew about Chloe's real dad for over 20 years. I said it was right for them to support Chloe but pointed out how they called me heartless for noting their different treatment of me back then. Deciding to cut contact was due to this recurring behavior and their denial. Their online shade pushed me to share the whole story. I didn't share screenshots or the paternity test because I felt my detailed account was enough. I kept it factual, no inflammatory language, just the truth. A lot of comments on my original post backed me up about the hypocrisy and unfairness of my parents then and now. Some wondered if going public was a great idea, saying it might make things worse or kill any chance of reconciling, but I never wanted to patch things up anyway. That ship sailed when I was 16, and things have only piled up since then. My main goal was to set the record straight because they tried to twist the story publicly first. I figured I had the right to defend myself with the truth. Thinking about it more over the past few weeks, I'm even surer I did the right thing. Their move to make me the bad guy was just more of the same old pattern: deny, deflect, and scapegoat when their actions are called out. My mom did it with Richard and both parents did it with me when I called out their hypocrisy. I don't regret putting the truth out there, it felt like an important step in taking back my life. After my post went up, and they went quiet, they took their post down soon after. Hey, so I just wanted to share an update about the situation with my parents. There hasn't been anything new that I've needed to do about them. I'm sticking to my no contact rule, and yeah, their numbers are still blocked. I've let a few mutual friends who wanted to mediate or hear my side know that I've already said everything I needed to in my public post. That was my truth, and there's really nothing more to say about it. I made it clear, but polite, that I don't want to hear any messages from my parents. One of my aunts, my dad's sister, reached out to me. She saw the post and was pretty shocked by what I revealed, especially about the just-in-case talk when I was 16. She mentioned that my dad never told his side of the family about that. She didn't try to defend my parents but was sad about how everything had fallen apart. I listened to her, thanked her for calling, and told her my decision to cut ties with my parents was final. I reassured her that our relationship didn't have to change, but I wouldn't be talking about my parents with her anymore. She seemed to get it. Since my public post, there's been radio silence from my parents on my end. It looks like the embarrassment for my post put a stop to their online antics. I heard from a cousin that people who only heard my parents' vague story were left in shock after my side of things came out, which changed some opinions. I don't feel victorious or anything, it's all pretty sad and complicated. But I do feel a sense of peace. The stress of dealing with their expectations and waiting for the next issue has disappeared. By cutting contact and sharing my truth, I've stepped out of their influence. I haven't talked to Chloe and have no idea if she's seen my post or what she thinks about it. My problem was never with her, and I hope she finds her own way. If she ever wanted to talk as adults, I'd be open to it, but I'm not reaching out first. Right now, I'm focused on my own peace, and I'm sticking to the choices I made to protect that. Update 2. It's been a year since my original post and about 10 months since my first update. A lot can change, or not change, in that time. Things with my parents are the same: no communication. Neither side has tried to reach out since my public post called out their online stories. Through indirect anecdotes, mostly from my aunt, I hear little family updates, but we keep my no parent discussion rule. Apparently, my dad legally adopted Chloe, which isn't surprising given their bond. It doesn't change anything for me, really. It just highlights the different way he treated her compared to me. No word from Chloe either way. I respect that she's probably still processing everything about her paternity and dealing with our parents. My aunt once mentioned Chloe as focusing on herself, which is good. If what I did added to her pain, that sucks, but it was a side effect of my parents' lies and their attempt to make me look bad. Sadly, my truth and her story are connected. As for my mom, I hear she's working hard to rebuild things with Chloe, trying to fix what her years of lies messed up. Chloe is her main focus now, which makes sense. Whether they can really fix things, who knows? The family is pretty much done as I once knew it. Holidays and birthdays come and go without a peep from them. It felt weird at first, not even getting a simple message, but it's become normal now. This will probably be my last update on all this. Everything's at a standstill, and I don't see myself reaching out to my parents again.